and welcome to Season 3 of Illuminate, a knowledge sharing series by NoPaperForms. After a tremendous success that we have received in our last seasons of Illuminate, we are back on demand to deliver you yet another opportunity to equip and upskill yourself for the admissions. For today's session, we'll be your host. I'm Urvashi, associated with NoPaperForms for close to 2 years as Senior Product Consultant. Along with me, I have Chaitanya. He has been playing an integral role working as Senior Product Consultant at NoPaperForms. He has rich customer success experience by interacting with universities and institutes about their admission strategies, and also is enabling our partner institutions with the pursuit to make the admissions mobile and contactless.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for the lovely introduction, Urvashi. I am also looking forward to having a great and insightful session with you today, where we will explore the most pertinent challenges faced by counselors in nurturing and converting prospective students. This session will help you to know how you can segment, prioritize, and engage prospective students in order to optimize your efforts, increase productivity, and improve what matters the most in your admission cycle, enrollments. Moving ahead, for those who are not much familiar with Zoom, I will quickly cover the ground rules. Please note that your audio video is mute by default. However, you can raise questions by clicking on the Q&A icon on the bottom navigation panel. Feel free to share your questions and we will try our best to answer them during the session. And even if time doesn't allow us, be assured, all your questions will be answered and mailed to you separately post the session. Also, during our discussion, we will be having multiple polls for the audience, wherein a question will pop up on your screen. You will get multiple options to select your answer from, and the results will be published immediately on the screen itself.
That's great. I can see people still joining in. Till the time, I would like to give Chaitanya the opportunity of introducing us as a company.
Thank you so much, Urvashi. Of course, before diving into depths of managing admissions remotely, please allow me to explain to you what NoPaperForms is and why we do what we do. Unlike any other sales and CRM platforms, we are an education-specific, comprehensive platform that has evolved over the years around deep consumer insights. I feel proud to acknowledge that as a platform, we are processing 1 million applications in India and are the most preferred enrollment partner for almost all the leading institutions across the country. The comprehensive solutions ranging from CRM, AI-driven chatbot Nia, automation for marketing, application, and even post-application being offered helps both the institution as well as candidates to navigate seamlessly to their end goals. Feel free to share your queries. Our very own smart Nia will answer them during the session. So Urvashi, tell me, what do we have in a bag for the audience today?
Well, here is another masterclass for counselors to deep dive into some of the effective strategies, actionable insights, and tools that will empower them to convert more and at the same time achieve their KRAs. This session is conceptualized around the most pertinent challenges faced by the counselors in nurturing and converting the prospective students. And when I say that, I mean counselors are one of the most integral stakeholders of an institute, playing a key role in driving the admissions. Today, I, along with Chaitanya, will be talking specifically about the approaches, nurturing plans, and strategies, which indeed are very critical to any admissions team. We are also up with a live demo on these strategies and approaches. We will also be taking a few questions during the demo, as well as in the open house by the end of the session. And most importantly, we will also be sharing the biggest industry hacks, do's and don'ts of the counselors to replicate. Now, coming on to a question which is often not asked, Chaitanya, who do you believe a counselor is and what role does he play?
Absolutely, Urvashi. Well, I believe a counselor is the one with whom a prospect or lead interacts with at the first instance. A counselor is the one who further is responsible and accountable to the internal admissions team for conversions. As a first touch point for the institution, a counselor's work not just impacts applicants' career and life, but the institution's marketing spends and allocation as well. So it becomes necessary to understand the vital role a counselor plays and what more could be done.
Very well said. Indeed, a counselor is the face of an institution and has a bigger role to play. With big roles, not only comes the great responsibility, but also I think greater is the need to guide them in utilizing their efforts in an efficient manner.
Absolutely. So, Urvashi, moving forward, let's have an overview of what is the agenda for today's
Sure.
masterclass. We will be diving deep into what could be a perfect plan for a counselor as part of the nurturing routine. As the first touchpoint for any institution, counselors play a vital role in the engaging and using consultative approach to nurture their prospects. We are going to discuss all the points in detail as well. Also, we'll be discussing engagement plans for counselors to scale and optimize their efforts, which will in turn help respective prospects for conversions. Equally important is to understand the medium on which the prospect is active so that the right communication channels are used for nurturing. And of course, we shall be sharing the best industry practices along with the suitable do's and don'ts to follow.
Very well summed up, Chaitanya. I have an interesting questions to all the counselors out there. Here is your question right on your screen. So as a counselor, how do you actually start your day is the question.
The options are quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure most of the counselors reading this question right now start their day with some or the other options as part of the daily routines.
I'm hoping to get very interesting responses to this question, and I'm even expecting a battle between follow-ups and untouched leads.
Yes. Meanwhile, Urvashi, as our audience is thinking their minds out loud, would you please help us understand what untouched leads actually mean?
Of course, in the layman language, if I had to explain, it will simply mean that the leads which have not been touched by the counselor for engagement. Whenever a lead registers for an institution and enters the CRM, it stands untouched by default. Now is the time that counselor makes the touch points with the leads, do some activity on it, and allot it to a suitable lead stage.
Absolutely. And can you please enlighten us on what follow-ups means as well?
Follow-ups. Follow-ups is a really interesting topic in which all the counselors are much interested in. So follow-ups is actually divided into few parts. One would be the today's follow-up. Other would be the upcoming follow-up. Third one would be the overall follow-ups, overdue follow-ups. And the fourth one would be the all follow-ups or the completed follow-ups.
Absolutely. Now let's see what our audience has responded.
Yes, the results are already out. And I think this is the most common response we do get in the training sessions which we conduct. Most of the counselors start their day by their engagement on the untouched leads, which is very important, I believe, right?
Absolutely. And for those who have selected the filtered and saved view option, we're glad that you all are prioritizing and planning your day through the filters and saving the views simultaneously.
While checking the productivity report to gauge your daily performance and act accordingly is another strategy which most counselors are following.
And one of the most important aspects of starting the day, what do you think, Urvashi, is to get look at our follow-up status in order to ensure closure of the upcoming and overdue follow-ups as well.
While this is equally important, I mean, all the four options are equally important and right, but Chaitanya, I'm sure the audience would also agree to the fact that the game lies in choosing when to choose and execute which strategy.
Perfectly put forward. Now, the viewers would really be excited to hear us elaborate the ideal start of the day. So
Right.
Over to you, Urvashi.
In this session, we'd like to introduce another approach to visualizing your day as a counselor. Now, you'd be wondering if we are going to provide you with a strategy to follow every day. Understanding that a doctor's prescription given for headache may not be used on the day when you are suffering from cough. Similarly, the same strategy actually cannot be used every day or may not be used every day and has to be tweaked a little in between as per the situation, as per the admission cycle. In a regular admission cycle, there are broadly three phases. First being the inception stage when there's a normal flow of admissions. Second being the peak stage and peak flow. And third being the last leg. So Chaitanya, do you think the strategies would differ in all the three phases?
Of course, Urvashi, it will definitely differ. And that's what is important for our audience to understand. The right approach at the right day at the right time. In the first phase, just let's say, for example, when the form has been just taken live, gradually the lead and application flow becomes normal. The main motive of a counselor would be to reach out more and more prospects and leads.
Similarly, in the next phase, the main motive for the counselor as well as for the admissions team would be to drive more conversions from the most potential of the leads and applications which we already have, because they're already in the peak season of admissions.
Yes. And just to name a few of the strategies, in case of a normal flow, let's say example, a counselor might start the day with today's or overdue follow-ups so that the same can be closed without today's or upcoming follow-ups turning to overdues.
Right.
Also, I believe many of the admission departments do not actually have the visibility of currently active leads. So next up can be finding out the leads which are active so that an immediate touch point can be made and the institute does not end up losing the lead of by any kind of delay. Similarly, untouched leads can be a priority at this point on time as well. What do you think?
Rightly explained. I think similarly in the case of peak season, the priority can be to find out those leads which have already initiated the payment but have not paid yet. I mean, imagine the trouble the institutes have to go through to find out those applicants which have already hit the payment button once, but maybe they have bounced back because of some reason or the other. Likewise, to find out those applicants who try to register more than once, or maybe 2 or 3 times, or maybe from different sources, it is really very important. And of course, automations can act as a helping hand here. The counselors can be notified as and when the applicant tries to re-register multiple times or maybe from a different source. And I'm so sorry. What about the last leg strategy? We had been talking about the normal and the peak flow, but what about the last leg strategy?
Excellent point. How about trying the invented funnel approach, Urvashi? Based on the number of enrollments left, we can look at the number of paid applications, further look at the number of high intent applicants, and finally the number of leads. Now that we have discussed this approach to the ideal start of the day, it's time to brainstorm the right strategy for the counselors as part of the daily nurturing routine.
Right.
So as we all know, it is very important to identify the potential leads from a huge lead count and filter them out. It is a known fact that 80% of our conversions come from 20% of our leads. To target these leads, we need to plan strategically, and importantly, in the current scenario, everybody wants things to be on the go, things to be mobile. Urvashi, over to you.
Right. I think mobile apps are changing the admission dynamics on a broader scale, and how exactly does it foster the productivity is the point here. Few of the things that can make the admissions mobile could be adding the quick lead wherever you are, whenever, I mean, wherever you are, adding the notes and status remarks and more by leaving the sticky tags behind, accessing the lead profile or delivering the personalized communication and experiences anytime from anywhere. When you're managing, when you're able to manage and maintain the lead profile from anywhere, because the things have gone so much mobile. Further, staying in the loop while everything is working remotely. Your counselors are in, say, southern area, you are in the north, right? And we believe many of you would agree, you would already be aware about that. Not only this, you can also stay up to date using the push notifications, or maybe delivering the push notifications to the counselors, and also the upcoming follow-up reminders through seamless integration of NoPaperForms mobile app with the Google Calendar. And cherry on the cake is when the counselors of our partnered institutions are able to stamp their check-in and check-out details so that the same can be added to their productivity metrics.
That's a lot in a single mobile app, Urvashi, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's wonderful when we use it. So moving forward, before moving any further, let's have another audience poll, because we want to understand the approach of a counselor as part of their engagement plan. So my next question is, what is your everyday nurturing routine? So what do you think, Urvashi? What can be the responses for this?
Now that's a good one. Let's see if our audience is using the right approach to achieve their desired outcomes. And we have already started receiving so many responses, I can see.
I hope so, because the strategic approach will not only help our counselors to improve their conversions, but will also help in enhancing their productivity. That's the main goal.
Right. And when you talk about the first touch point and of the student, and it's very important how they guide and consult the students in terms of which the courses and programs they want to take the admission in. When the strategic approach comes into place, The prioritization reminds me about the concept of lead score and lead percentile, which is often assumed to be similar.
I agree. I have observed a lot of confusion in the bifurcation of the two. Now, lead score increases and or decreases as per the activities done by either the counselor or the lead or the applicant. It depends on the positive or the negative activity done either by the counselors, that is marking their lead stages, or by a student, let's suppose starting an application form, right? However, lead strength depicts the percentage of the chance of conversion for that particular lead as compared to the overall leads in the system.
Right. And coming to the poll, many of the responses have already come, and here are the results, which clearly shows that there are many of you, many counselors who are actually filtering out the leads based on the traffic channel or source. I mean, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, that's right.
Also, there is a fixed routine basis the views and filters saved. I think many of the counselors have understood the fact that in case they save the filters, they use the advanced filters, the things become a bit more easy for them. For say they are coming 2 or 3 days after when they have saved the filters, they do not have to apply all the filters time and again. They can just click on the save filters, and again, this we will actually see in the live demo, which we'll be portraying to the participants.
Absolutely. And now, as the part of decoding and nurturing funnel, that's what we have to take care of, right? As the counselors are the first touch point for any student, it's very important how they guide and consult the student in terms of which courses or let's say programs they want to take admission in. Out of the leads that gets entered into the CRM for counseling, the guidance provided to each and every student helps them understand and articulate their preferences, which in turn helps to improve enrollments. Wouldn't you agree, Urvashi?
I think you're totally right on that.
That's so. Let's analyze the next poll question that we have, or the next nurturing strategies that we have, right? Which is idea. So, Urvashi, over to you.
So, Chaitanya, I think we have got an idea wherein I stands for identification of potential leads, wherein the motive is to identify and prioritize the prospects by using advanced filters to whom we have to connect with first. And the filters, you can also identify the leads, the higher chances of being converted. And you can also use numerous, and there are plenty of filters. The combination of filters can be used at your disposal to narrow down your search. D states that delivering with relevant context. Once we have identified the potential leads, it's very much important that we have relevant pitching for every audience set. The idea behind this is to ensure that we know I as a counselor, I know the lead much better than the lead knows me. Lead doesn't have to think that I have to explain each and everything again to the counselor. He has already applied for the course. He has applied for BTech course. It's the counselor who has to start the pitch from what exactly in the BTech course, what more in the BTech course, and how is the BTech course really very fun and good at the particular university. Next up is engaging the leads and strategies by using all the touch points to effectively engage the applicant and update the activity. And when we talk about touch points, we basically mean engagement through the outbound telephonic calls, or maybe it can be adding notes, adding follow-ups, or changing the lead stages, which actually helps us to connect well the next time we talk to them. After an appropriate touch point is already taken, right? We have already maintained a touch base with the lead. We shall always send a personalized communication to leave them with a recall value at least. Now, this personalized communication can be on the lines of a particular lead stage and should clearly describe the next step of action required of them. I mean, through the leads. Now, if I talk about, we have been, this is something very much superficial when we just hear it. Once we talk about the priority filters, which can actually help you adopt these approaches, we have see 3 basic priority filters, which I'm sure many of the counselors would have already been using. What does P1 states? Priority 1 says that the form has already been initiated. right? We have already got the intent of the lead. We already know that the form has been initiated, but the payment is not approved yet. What does that mean? That at most priority for any counselor would be to pitch, to attack those applicants who are in the middle of their form and they know for the fact that they might be thinking about one thing or the other. For example, if they are on the course details, what exactly are they thinking? Shall I just call that particular lead to inquire about why he's still there, why he's not moving forward, and along with that, in case I can help him with the course details so that it can probably help him to fill the application form further. For example, I'll just give a small example here, that many of the applicants are not moving forward because they do not actually have the proper course details. What if I as a counselor just call the lead and inform that the latest scholarship or maybe any other placement update regarding that course, and that would help the applicant to make the decision. Second priority filter would be to identify which are the leads who have already shown the intent for you. And by intent, what we mean as they have become verified either through the email or through OTP message. So the priority filter would be simple. If the lead is verified, but the form has not been initiated. So the next course of action would be, I as a counselor will go to him and inquire about that you have already been verified and we know that you are interested for the course and that is the only reason why you are verified for the institution. P3 would be the priority. Third filter would be probably the verified leads have already been catered, but what about the unverified leads, right? And I think Chaitanya, you'd be able to take up the next poll which we have.
Absolutely. And that was a lot to intake for the audience, right? The priority filters that we just discussed. And it will be more clearer to our audience when we showcase it on the demo environment, right? So moving forward, now we have another poll question for our audience. So what are the criteria? How do you determine potential enrollment candidates from your funnel? So how do you answer that question?
I think it will be interesting for a few people to know that the system is capable of tracking the last activity date of the lead and as well as the last activity date of the counselors, and further helps us in filtering out those leads which are actually active in say last 7 days or maybe last month, but the counselor did the last activity even before that.
Absolutely. And this particular poll question will also help us understand how the counselors identify and execute the opportunities to nurture their respective needs. I believe it will be one of the most important filters for all the counselors and management so as to identify such leads and reach out to them at the earliest.
But this, I've also heard of many of the instances when the institutes keep on wondering a way out to find out those leads which came in primarily from some X source and are also trying to register from the other Y source, right?
Right. And this is actually one of the complexities the industry was facing. And it is now made easy with the help of different levels of instances that is captured in the system.
Right. So I think the poll results would be out soon, which say that what are the criteria being used by the counselors to identify the potential enrollments from the funnels. Now, the criteria, the most important criteria which the counselors are using is, I work on payment pending applicants.
Absolutely. And that's the right approach too, because we have to, at the end, we have to make sure that we get maximum payment approved candidates. And if we work and prioritize on payment pending applicants, then we can help our nurturing processes and our productivity will be improved eventually.
I think somebody who has learned the art of filtering out the leads through positive lead dispositions and negative lead dispositions has actually understood the power of system. And when it comes to basis on the brand pull traffic channels, I think there are quite a few people who have used that strategy. But I believe after we are done telling them more strategies, idea, MRI, and other strategies, I'm sure this number is going to increase.
Absolutely. Then why wait for it?
Chaitanya, did you see? There are quite a few people who are saying, I'm not sure if the criteria exists. All right.
So we'll help them understand the criteria and over to you to help them understand the right strategies to use for nurturing.
Right, but before we move ahead towards the strategies, we have got quite a few questions in the Q&A section. I'll just narrate one for you. How do I convince a student to take admission with us who is based out far from our institution? I do tell pros and cons of our locality. Still, what add-ons can I use?
Absolutely. So what we can do here is we can engage and pitch to the student in a manner that is beneficial to them. First, at the first instance itself, we have to identify the opportunities while nurturing the student in terms of what courses they are interested in or what geographical location they are looking in. According to that, we can prioritize or pitch our nurturing processes accordingly. Similarly, if we use the right communication channels to communicate to that particular student at a specific intervals of time as well, so that proper nurturing is done and the student is not lost.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Tagore Putha, for highlighting this question. And what has been answered by Chaitanya is quite fine, because once you're telling about your locality, I just would like to let you know one of the strategies which I saw an institute used on the website itself. I mean, I've seen it quite less in the websites when they actually used a proper corner. They have actually placed the pros and cons of the locality where the institute is situated in. I think that was quite a good idea which an institute can think of, that because when I did my graduation, actually I was actually not aware about how the locality would be, if the locality would be safe or not, how far is it from the highway, how near is it from the railway station or from any of the markets. But probably there are some institutes who have been highlighting this, and that has come out to be such a great relief for them, wherein the students knows about, because student is already far away from you, right? Student actually doesn't know about much about the university until unless they go to the website, and this is where the right kind of information on your website would actually help them make the decision fast.
Absolutely. And there is another question that our audience has asked, and that is how to engage candidates who say that they are not interested. Urvashi, will you be able to take over that?
Right. How to engage the candidates who say they are not interested totally depends upon how many times are you actually hearing that from a particular candidate. For example, there's a counselor who called Chaitanya, and Chaitanya was in some hospital, or he was playing somewhere with his friends. So what did he say? That no, not as of now. I'm not too much interested in the program which you are asking me for. So at that point in time, it pondered the counselor to change the lead stage to cold, and that is an instant decision probably which a counselor would make, that yes, the student is not interested, or maybe leave cold. It would be not interested. The student is not interested. I've seen some cases where in the students, where the management has actually created some lead stages by the name of call attempt 1, call attempt 2, call attempt 3, call attempt 4. They are deciding how many times a lead has to be called until they are marked as not interested, right? And it will actually not come overnight. It will come by the trends. It will come by the counseling experience and the feedback which each and every counselor will give to you, that such kind of students, the students from north or such a state are actually not interested for such kind of a course. Then you will come to know that the course is not appropriate for that particular state, right? So all of this is very much interlinked. So when we talk about instant decision impact, so here, the icons are quite well explanatory, wherein the counselor asks that in case you are interested for applying to our program, and because the student was not in a right kind of mental state at that particular time, they said that no, not as of now. And in that case, the counselor marked the lead stage as cold. Fair enough. But when it is day 40, the same student is coming to apply for the same institution, but the lead stage is still cold. That means, can we actually provide a visibility to the counselor to know the impacts of the instant decisions which they have already made at day 1, which are actually changed on day 40, and this is the time that they have to go back to the student and counsel them and nurture them again, so as to they do not end up, leaving that student to some other institute for that matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Urvashi. And that's also very important because that's the point where we at times lose out on potential leads. That we have to make sure that whenever we are trying to filter out or using strategies for nurturing, so to make sure we counsel all the high intent applicants or the applicants who are being interested at a later stage of point of time as well.
Right.
So talking about the next strategy is the multiple registration impact. Now, with this particular strategy, you will be able to filter out those leads who are inquiring about the university or the institutes through multiple traffic channels. If a student, let's say, is inquiring from multiple channels, that means the intent is very high and the student would be interested to know more. It is important for the counselors to not to lose on such an audience and reach out to them. In our system, we are identifying these leads which inquire from multiple channels, but also we track and capture new inquiry source and lead details as well. You can easily filter out these potential leads through the filter of campaign instance, which says primary, secondary, and tertiary. And also to, let's suppose, explain in a layman language, let's suppose I am a student. I come from one traffic channel 1, right? I register with an email ID and a mobile number, right? And my lead is in the system. And I again come with trying to re-register again through same mobile number and email ID. Then in that case, my new lead will not be generated because duplicacy is not allowed in the system, which is the USP, right? And also this helps us identify the potential leads or the important leads that we have to prioritize while nurturing. So that's what multiple registration impact depicts, right?
Right.
So moving forward to the next strategy is the strategic nurturing plan. Now, when there's a small registration window and a high number of registration, it gets very difficult for counselors to identify and connect with high intent leads. With SNP, you can prioritize counseling efforts in the right direction by acknowledging the impact of your lead sources. Now, here is how SNP will help you increase quality enrollments effortlessly. First, focus on calling leads from brand pull sources, that is sources such as website, email, as these leads have the highest conversion potential, right? API and offline are also that contribute majorly in lead inflow. Nurturing those leads contextually via marketing automation workflows is very important, right? Because if a low intent lead, let's suppose, opens or clicks through from an automation workflow, the stage can automatically change from, let's suppose, cold to warm, and the counselors don't have to do much of the manual work, and they can be notified in real-time basis as well. So these are some important strategies that can be followed by the counselors in order to improve their nurturing processes. So this brings us to our next poll question, right? What are the communication channels you use to engage with your candidates? So what do you say about that, Urvashi?
I think the poll is right on their screens. Which are the channels that you use to engage and communicate with your prospects? We know for the fact that emails and SMSs are quite an ancient channels which have been used by many universities. And we believe that many of the candidates who are actually on email and SMSs are quite approachable as well, right? But I think it's quite implied that many of them would choose email and SMS. What do you say?
I have a question for you. What about WhatsApp? What about WhatsApp?
See, WhatsApp, if I ask you, WhatsApp is very much emerging in today's time, that you also know, and I think our audience also knows. In case a student is not on the email, he will certainly be on the WhatsApp. I mean, a 7-year-old kid also has WhatsApp on their mobile. That much approachable they are on their WhatsApp, and that is why it becomes very, very important for a counselor to use the functionality of either WhatsApp plugin. And I mean, if it's WhatsApp Business API, it will act as a cherry on the top, because with WhatsApp Business API comes a greater sense of reliability, brand instance, and brand recall.
Absolutely. And WhatsApp is surely acting as an emerging communication medium, which is widely used not only by adults, but by school and college going students too, as correctly portrayed by you. Let's see the poll results.
I think the people, Out of amaze, the students have, the participants have chosen the WhatsApp as the most engaging channel which they have been using. And we are glad to see that WhatsApp is, giving 77% of the rate. Great.
And that's matching with the data as well, Urvashi, because with an open rate of over 98%,
Yes.
rich media messaging, and the ability to broadcast personalized communication, WhatsApp provides a deeply immersive experience to the applicants and improves brand recall like no other channel.
And equally, I believe the calls and email and SMSs are equally important as the counselors have portrayed in their responses too.
Absolutely. Now, this brings us to our next slide, which showcases you the right communication channels in a unified communication suite. Right. So typically, what educational institutions communicate with their applicants in silos through multiple channels, just as explained, like emails, SMS, calls, WhatsApp messages, but they are often unable to share personalized or contextual knowledge or engage with them on real-time basis. Now that's the pain point. This results in poor and delayed engagement for many candidates. That doesn't justify the lead acquisition cost and negatively impacts the admission marketing ROIs, brand reputation, and ultimately the final result that every institute wants, enrollments. Today, your students are used personalized experiences that help them make smarter and more informed decisions. Choosing the right career and educational institution is one of the most important decisions a candidate has to make. Thus, it is important that a candidate gets the right message at the right time via the right channel that reinforces their decision to join the institution. By the NoPaperForms Unified Communication Suite, it empowers you to do exactly that and much more as a 360-degree communication platform for your admission.
I think Parika Barar has raised a similar kind of question. Can you elaborate on using the right communication channel? Chaitanya, I think one such thing which is there in this 360-degree approach is multilingual SMSs, which I believe many of the users of NoPaperForms as well, and also outside NoPaperForms might not be aware about. What do you have to say about it?
Absolutely. This is one form of the communication that can be used at different levels of counselors, because obviously there are geographical locations or geographical students that prefer SMSs in multiple languages. So this can be used as an effective nurturing communication channel in order to enhance the conversion percentage.
Right. Now, you had been talking about the unified communication suite, and this makes me ponder to the fact that what about the walk-ins? If there are still some people who do not use the QR codes for walk-ins or maybe for any of the campaigns they have been running both online and offline, I believe this is the key takeaway from this session. QR codes with proper UTM parameters, that is source, medium, and campaign name, is crucial. I assume the counselors might be dealing with a lot of walk-ins every day, and they hardly get added to the productivity stats. We are here introducing the appointment manager, where the counselors can book their slots for the students to visit them. Be it an online meeting, be it an offline meeting, and walk in at their own institution. They can just go to the lead manager, select that lead, go to the action button, and they just have to click on book an appointment. Once the slot is booked, a communication will be triggered to the students with the slot date and time. And this communication can not only go through email, SMS, but WhatsApp as well.
Absolutely. As correctly explained by Urvashi, we have covered all the important aspect of communication channels and the importance of the newly introduced module of appointment manager, which can be used effectively by the institutions to nurture their students. Now, to ensure that whatever processes that are being followed by the counselors are correct, we have some checklist which showcases you the do's and don'ts that the counselors need to follow on a daily basis.
I think I would go first, Chaitanya. So do not use generic communication.
Absolutely. We should always use strategic and personalized communication by using the means of tokens that are already in the system, which sends a personalized touch to the students, which engages them in a more effective manner.
And when I talk about generic communication, I say the pitching should also not be a standard pitching. It shall be a customized pitching, right?
Absolutely correct. It should be customized based on the mandate that they have decided after every call. Now, what I mean by mandate is by changing the lead stages, by updating the notes, by updating the follow-ups, right? So that we know that the next time I want to talk to that particular student, what kind of pitch I need to do.
Right. And with this, I would like to inform to our audience this as well, that when we talk about adding notes, adding follow-ups, there has to be a hierarchy of it, right? This is actually not such a process that it is okay if we have followed today and not tomorrow. This has to be a process which has to be followed, right? You have called a lead and you have added a note, but you have not added a follow-up, but you have changed the lead stage to warm. Why warm if the follow-up is not added? Warm actually signifies that lead wants to, or maybe lead has an intent. So follow-up, maybe the follow-up duration would actually depend upon the counselor and the conversation with the lead. If they say that, yes, you can please call me after 7 days, then of course the follow-up date would be after 7 days. And that's where importance of overdue follow-ups comes, wherein we have seen some of the counselors with a huge number of overdue follow-ups, and we try to keep them to the minimum, right?
Absolutely.
Then do not use just default views. We have been talking about advanced filters and views in our webinar. Do not use just default views.
Yes, using filters and saving those filters while nurturing the students is very important. As we have defined all the kind of filters that can be used in the system, all the counselors can use filters and their views accordingly as per their convenience to nurture their students. So it's very important to use advanced filters to slice and dice data based on their convenience.
Then do not use just website links. I mean, I think all the institutions who actually send an email or SMS, they actually use a click to action button. They should do, and they do use as well. However, using the same kind of website link behind that apply now or complete your application is not fine. And why I'm saying is would be rightly explained by Chaitanya.
Absolutely. So how about by just clicking on a single button, you can be redirected to your own personalized dashboard. That's the power of direct login links. That can be used while sending emails, while sending SMSs, while sending WhatsApp, so that the student journey is as smooth as it can get.
And when Chaitanya talks about direct login links, we truly mean that if a prospect, if a lead and an applicant is on the declarations page, this link, this tab or the token will actually redirect them to the declaration page and not to the website. What would happen if they actually go to the website? They have to remember or memorize their user credentials, what they had set for the dashboards 4 years ago. And then they'll be logging in through those credentials. Probably they'll go to their email box and find out the credential mails, and that would be too cumbersome for them. So direct login links would redirect them inside the form from wherever they left. With that, we are also saying that engaging, we actually do not have to keep on engaging with the leads as and when they're coming. I mean, user registration date is very much important, but when it is used with the combination of filters, it could give you wonderful results. However, haphazardly approaching the leads in a not so good manner and not so prioritized approach can lead to bad results as well.
Correct, Urvashi. So it's very important for us to identify, manage, and prioritize leads, because we cannot nurture all the lead inflow into the system at one go. There are thousands of leads that are coming into the system. We have to prioritize our nurturing based on the intent of the students, right? That we can do by using filters and by using different views that we have already discussed.
In the previous 2 slides, I believe we have informed our audiences to know the fact that there are so many mediums in which your lead is active. I mean, you are actually you're actually approaching them on emails, but the candidate is active on, say, chat or Nia. He might not be active on emails. So finding out that particular channel on which your lead is active on, and also what makes an approach unified is touch basing with all the mediums on which your candidate is active on, not just WhatsApp, not just email, not just SMS, but all the medium. I mean, there should be no space for a candidate to just let go of that opportunity, which would have been created wonders in case they would have come to you.
That's what we say about rightly defining communication modes. We should define the correct communication mode for our specific target audience so that nurturing will be done in an effective manner.
Coming on to the automation workflows, I think, Chaitanya, the system is actually capable of preparing complex automation flows, which have actually turned out to be quite helpful for the counselors. Be it if a certain activity happens, change the lead stage. If a certain activity happens, reassign to a particular counselor. If the call is coming from such DID number, reassign to a particular counselor. These are some of the very complex and advanced level workflows which the system is capable of, and I believe many of our partnered institutions have been using them widely.
Absolutely. And also the last pointer that I need to discuss is mapping productivity and applicant follow-ups. So whenever a counselor logs into the system, it's very important to map their productivity of their previous day, as of how many follow-ups are overdue, how many upcoming follow-ups they have, so that they can ensure that the closure of those follow-ups is done on priority and potential leads are not lost on that particular process.
Surely we hope that we have tried our best to answer as many questions as we could, and those which are left, we would definitely revert and mail the answers separately to you post the session. And in case you feel the support is required from our end, please do reach out to us. We'll be more than glad to connect and work with you.
Absolutely. And I would say thank you once again for all the participants and all our audience for joining this session. Do write us back for your feedback or suggestions. And if you have any topic which you want us to pick and discuss in length, please feel free to ask or write to us.
It was a pleasure to have you all, and thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe and happy upskilling.